Rolling Stone magazine has rolled down the hill of a new low with this one, y'all. And rolling that stone back uphill is about as pointless as the stubborn efforts of King Sisyphus. But they'll spend the effort anyway, like a dragon-chasing heroin addict. Now, I'm sure that all involved in approving of this cover lives by the saying that a picture is worth 1,000 words. And the 1,000 words that this photograph conveys speaks far louder than the 20 words they used on the cover to cover their behind. And the cover type they tried to use to cover their behind is as weak as the one sheet of toilet paper Sheryl Crow uses to wipe hers.
I think what's happening. Propaganda.
Cheryl, I think we might take you up on your one-sheet philosophy. But instead of using one sheet of toilet paper, we'll just use one sheet of Rolling Stone magazine per visit to the bowl, being that the magazine seems to absorb crap really well. And y'all, I also see Rolling Stone magazine and the uphill stone-rolling King Sisyphus analogy is fitting, because it shows that Rolling Stone, like King Sisyphus, will try anything to succeed except the right thing. Rolling Stone is sinking like the stone it is, and it's sinking in its own shallowness. How sad is that? But as far as I know, the only thing King Sisyphus didn't try was repentance. And I don't mean an apology. An apology just means trying to explain what you did in hopes that another will understand. Repentance is not expecting someone else to take the responsibility to understand what you did. It's about you taking the responsibility of understanding that what you did was wrong and move forward in a new and righteous direction. King Sisyphus didn't move in a new direction. He kept pushing that stone up the same path. And Rolling Stone magazine will do the same. And with Rolling Stone magazine, the king and the stone are one and the same. Maybe at some point, if it hits Rolling Stone in the pocket hard enough, they might offer an apology for the cover, laying the burden on you to forgive them. But that doesn't mean they've changed and assumed the responsibility of taking on a new and righteous direction. We all know people who have apologized for doing wrong to us and then turned around and wronged us again. I lived my own life as King Sisyphus myself. I had a big stone that represented my ego, my selfishness, my self-righteousness. I would push that stone uphill, the heavy stone of my self-involvement that was obviously in my way. And even when that stone would roll downhill and out of my way, where I had an opportunity to see the sun's light of freedom that the stone was blocking, my silly behind turned away from the light and went back to the stone, because I thought that the path to success was achievable by my power alone. And a time came when the stone rolled back downhill and the sunlit path of freedom was before me. And by sunlit path, I don't mean lit by solar light, by the way. I repented. I didn't just apologize. I didn't try to make excuses. I didn't try to justify myself. I repented and was given a new direction. My new direction was by no means horizontal, because the sunlit path is vertical. See, you can take on a new direction in the world that's horizontal, but chances are you're gonna come right back around to the same place. But when you take a sunlit path that takes on a vertical direction, which is infinite, it's a path that leads to eternal freedom. Don't push your religious views on us, Zoe. I'm not pushing anything, including that stone I used to push. The point is, I know a stubborn and Sisyphean condition when I see it. And Rolling Stone has shown no evidence that they're interested in repenting of their misguided ways. I know some will say, Zoe, I was liking your commentary until you started dragging your faith into it. Yeah, people like you don't pay much attention. My faith is at the foundation of all my commentaries. So even those parts you agree with, where you didn't hear me mention biblical implications, you should know that it was still written based on what I learned from his word. So technically, you really shouldn't like anything I have to say. But anyway, you know what else I used to think when I used to push that stone uphill? That someday, when I get to the top of that hill and make it, as we starving artists used to say, I would enjoy the rewards of being posted on the front of magazines like Rolling Stone. Looking back, I realized that I used to be a prisoner of such aspirations. And what aspiration to be featured on such a publication of well-crafted left-wing propaganda. At one time, I used to think it would be such an honor and a compliment to be featured on Rolling Stone. Now I can say that I am so honored that I am someone that Rolling Stone would never want on their cover. I would be insulted to have runners of that magazine to ever see me and my band as Rolling Stone material in their present mindset. And these Rolling Stone liberals have the nerve to promote the hatred of free market capitalism as they curse the bourgeois. If there is anything wrong with free market capitalism, an example would be like Rolling Stone and the people who patronize their brand. For a sad irony is, the people behind Rolling Stone have made big wealth promoting anti-personal wealth that people have the right to attain here. And the enemies of such freedoms, like this guy, are glamorized on said magazine. Oh, but you give yourself an out by putting a little cover type saying he's a monster. And you did that cover so you can make money. You are a glowing example of a sellout. You have demonstrated with gusto that you love money more than you love people, as y'all would rely on a glamorized picture of Tsarnaev at the emotional expense of those directly afflicted by his actions. This is what the love of money does. It leads to suffering imposed upon others. Money itself isn't evil. If it were evil, God wouldn't accept it as a tithe. But leftist magazines like Rolling Stone glamorize the rich and famous, but try to make themselves appear down to earth by supporting anti-capitalistic free marketism. Rolling Stone is the very thing they hate about the bourgeoisie. But y'all, Rolling Stone is gonna do what they're gonna do. But to my American patriots, what are you gonna do? I see a lot of patriots cursing the darkness, but I'd like to see more candles lit instead. An example would be, instead of just expressing our disgust for Rolling Stone, how about competing with them and offering something more interesting and even more redeeming? Like David Draymond from the band Disturbed. He unloaded on Rolling Stone, but David Draymond also offers up something interesting to show that patriotism rocks, and they hold up in an industry that promotes the fashion of patriotism. And like I said before, even some patriots will claim to love America, but what they love is their fantasy of what they want America to be, which they do not understand would be the end of freedom. So y'all, demand more publications and productions that counter the leftist culture and support those who are trying to supply you with an excellent quality of such products. That's lighting candles, which would be energy better spent than cursing the darkness. And maybe we'll get enough of those candles lit to be a shining city on the hill again. I'm Alfonso Rachel with Zonation, and before you race baiters try to spin my words and reach to assert that when I say curse the darkness, I'm really talking about cursing Obama, I'll just say you and Rolling Stone can kiss a big old mouthful of my well-shaped behind. We'll just use one sheet of Rolling Stone magazine per visit to the bowl.